and welcome to the second half of the Grim Gazette. I am your host, T. Morris. You can call me T Monster, or Twitch Dad. I am also a representative of OSI, or Old Spirits Investigations. You can find out more about us at that URL that I just dropped into chat, because this is happening live on Twitch. Every Tuesday night, we come here with your weekly dose of weird, and now we come in with our deep dive into what's happening in the paranormal. Now, this is a thing that I've been noticing, and I've been kind of toying around the idea of doing it as possibly, hey, how you doing there, buddy? Doing it possibly as a 5-minute paranormal, which means it'll be a little more polished than doing it live. But of course, I'll be taking your questions live on stream about what I wanted to talk about this week, which is about Burnout. So one of the things that I take a lot of pride in is that in the paranormal community, there are a lot of people that are sharing their experiences on different platforms, but particularly YouTube. YouTube is becoming, or has become, I think, almost like a last stand, if you will, for people that want to depict paranormal investigation as the form of entertainment, as opposed to trying to build a narrative, or a false narrative even in some cases, around something in the paranormal and then present that as paranormal investigation. You've heard me talk about it on other offerings here on Old Spirits over on YouTube. I have talked about, and even Phil and I have talked about, the dangers of false narratives. We've talked about the difference, the line between paranormal investigation and paranormal entertainment. And one of the things that I have said before about paranormal investigation on YouTube is that it can be entertaining. Paranormal investigation can be entertaining. It does not necessarily have to be, dude, ghost, dude, demon. You know, it doesn't have to be that. So then you get a lot of groups that come on and they start sharing their content. And one of the things that I feel like I have done as a paranormal investigator is I have learned a lot by watching other people host their paranormal investigations. I learned by watching others. And everybody has their own way of bringing paranormal investigations into a live platform like Twitch or like YouTube or like Kick or any of the places where paranormal investigators congregate. But something else I've noticed too is that a lot of these groups, they will come out of the box swinging with a lot of really cool investigations, and then they'll just taper off. And it reminds me a lot of podcasting, and it's one of the reasons why Chuck Tomasi and myself no longer we no longer go out of our way to endorse a wide variety of different podcasts, because every 3 years when we go back to touch up and create a brand new edition of Podcasting for Dummies, if you were to ask me what is the biggest change, what is the biggest hassle, what is the biggest thing you have to update, it's who's still podcasting. And that's within a 3-year window. And one of the things that Pip and I have started to notice is that a lot of people come out of the box swinging, putting up really impressive investigations, and then they just go silent. They go silent for months on end. And I'm seeing someone that I consider a new friend in the paranormal. I see him struggling with this, and I get where he's coming from. But at the same time, I'm like, you need to work through this a little more efficiently. So you might be asking, well, like who, T? And that's the thing. I don't want to necessarily name drop, because, like I said, it's an ongoing trend, and I don't know what's happening behind the scenes. But still, one of the things that I have noticed about paranormal groups on YouTube specifically, because that's where I spend a lot of my time, watching paranormal groups, which is on YouTube, one of the things that I feel like I've noticed is I have noticed that they will do investigations. They will do investigations, and then 2 weeks later, roughly 2 or 3 weeks later, you'll see where they were investigating pop up in the YouTube feed. And I have nothing but respect for that. I have nothing but respect for that sort of schedule, because if you're doing this full time, that is easy to maintain. That is a pretty decent schedule to maintain. You go on ahead, you investigate a place, 2 or 3 weeks later, bam, that place shows up in your feed. But I think, in particular, with a lot of these groups that are doing, they're doing weekly investigations. Now, you notice at Old Spirits, we don't do that. And that is by design. Because, well, right now, we can't do it full time. We cannot afford to do Old Spirits full time. This is not me with hat in hand going, so please support, give us join the membership over at YouTube. That's not what I'm saying here. What I'm saying is that Phil has a career and he has a job. I am working on getting a career and getting my job back on track. I'm working on that. But doing this full time, doing any kind of content creation full time, that is an absolute challenge, because you need to make sure that you're taking care of health, you're taking care of, bills, you're taking care of anything you need to do to get stuff done. And I was thinking about this based on the person that I originally was going to do a deep dive about, but then I chose not to. She is obviously being financed by somebody, and good on them, because they're going to a lot of high test places, and they've got a lot of top end gear that they're working with. But again, that is not the norm. And in particular, with this one friend of mine who is kitted out with a lot of different gadgets, a lot of different things that you can employ into the field to work a paranormal investigation with. He has been struggling to try to get back into a regular, hey, I'm going to be dropping something every week. He is also traveling on his own. Now, traveling on your own, that's got some perks as well, but it is still expensive renting out some of these places, especially when you're doing it by yourself. Now, he's trying to, team up with other investigators, and I'm trying to have him collaborate with us, because I love work. I would love to work with this guy. Thunderstorm rolling in, you might lose connection. Okay, secondhand, thank you for the heads up. But when it comes to this, but he is not unique in this. I've seen a lot of people just come out of the box with investigation after investigation. They're trying to do it on a weekly basis, and then they will go 2 or 3 months without any kind of content, and then they'll start up again. Then another gap, sometimes even longer, 3 or 4 months. And then I've just seen some people saying, yeah, you know what? I think I'm done doing this. I think I'm done. I just can't keep up. Now, where I'm coming from with this, and I've only been on YouTube in this particular capacity with OSI. We've only been doing this for 3 years. I tried during 2020 to do weekly content on YouTube, and it's a lot tougher than people think it is. Especially if you're doing the reason why I really believe this too. The reason why reaction videos are so commonplace. And when I say reaction videos, I am even putting myself in that category. The reaction video that I did with Doug, that is what I would call low-hanging fruit. I'm basically reacting to a video, and then I'm taking my reaction, I'm putting it out there. Now, there are some people that is the core. That is the core of their of their content. And then you've got people that go, well, I hit it big with that, so I'm going to keep hitting that topic again and again and again. And there's a reason why we at Old Spirits, when we decided to talk about, say, Satori and Cody or the Sam and Colby thing at the Conjuring House, we did a whopping 3 videos on that. When Project Fear was at that time one of our biggest sources of audience, of people coming in and discovering the channel and talking to us and watching our content. We only did two videos about them. And then we have the thing with Doug. Now, would it have been easier for me to go around to some of the higher end content creators, some that are dipping into the paranormal, like Call Me Chris and Selena Spooky Boo, and doing reaction stuff on them? Sure. I mean, that could have been my indication, maybe reaction videos are the way to go. But that's not what we do. I don't want to make a channel that is just reaction videos. I don't necessarily want to make a channel that constantly taps the same vein over and over again. We might go back to talking about something that Project Fear did. We might go back to something that Beardo Gets Scared did. There are a lot of different things that when we hit a nerve, when we strike a nerve, like, and a good example of that nerve would be the reaction video that I did with Doug. Currently, and I do stress that, currently, the Doug video sits at how many views now? The thumbnail was here in front of me once upon a time. There it is. It sits at 98,000 views. And that definitely deserves one of these. 98,000 views. This will be the first video that we've ever had on this channel that is going to reach, at the rate that it's going, it's going to reach 100,000 views. So, according to the fad on YouTube, I should try to find something else to do with Doug, right? But that's not the kind of content that I want to create. I want to create content that deals with the paranormal and deals with paranormal investigation. But I have to keep feeding the algorithm. And that's the thing I noticed, is that when people get burned out because no one is watching their content, it's because they're not regularly putting up content. They will put out a whole bunch of content, and then they'll go dark, and then they'll do some more content randomly, and then they'll go dark for an even longer period of time. And then they're like, oh, this is not worth it. And I think that if you want to avoid burnout, particularly when you're creating paranormal content, and also when you're creating content in general, you want to have some kind of strategy. So what exactly is that strategy? Okay. Burnout is a thing, and it's something that is a genuine worry, at least for me, because I've done this before, where I feel driven in a project. I feel driven. I want to keep things going. I want to keep a momentum going. And then it gets harder and harder to put out an episode. This particular thing, Old Spirits, I feel like has the strategy that I never could quite get for podcasting, but I'm able to get things done, and I'm able to create content on a regular basis and keep it fresh. So these would be the tips that I would give if you ever think about content creation, video or audio. And if you ever think about working in the paranormal and doing some paranormal content, go in with the kind of strategy that, at least for me, I think is working very well at Old Spirits, and how we're able to both be true to the algorithm. We are also able to create content on a regular basis for people. And we are also able to just avoid getting worn down to your last inch. So let me start from the beginning. Like when we first started this, when we first started doing this, me and Phil, I'm like, okay, I feel like what we should do is we should do an investigation try to aim for 30 to 45 minute episodes because we're new, and usually with new folks, people are not gonna, no, that's okay secondhand. But new people are not necessarily going to stick around for an hour, or people for the newer teams, an hour is asking a lot. So let's start with just 30 to 45 minutes, and even then is something. Yo, how you doing there, Luna? Good to see you in stream. Hope you're doing well. You might get a kick out of this. I'm talking about content creation, and I'm talking about working with video, and some of the stuff that you've come up with, Luna. Really good stuff. So I'm hoping that maybe you'll get something out of this too. But I'm talking specifically about the paranormal and how you can make it work. But I bet you could adjust this to pretty much anyone that's got a creative bone in their body and they want to be able to do something with video on YouTube. So the original idea is, okay, so we're gonna do an investigation, right? But we should have something in between, because especially when you work with video, it is hard to film something and then edit it down and make it coherent and make it smooth, and then that takes time. So that was when I said, well, what we could do in between investigations is this little thing called like a little vignette. It's just enough to feed the algorithm. It's more than a short, but it's not a full episode. And I actually played around with this on my original YouTube channel. On there, I would do some type of deep dive. Like I would do like a nerdy deep dive. I did like an essay about Marvel. I did something about cyberpunk. That was the big one. And I did another essay on Twitch and the DMCA. Like 5 minutes. So I would do the big essays, but then after doing the big essays, I would do this thing called the I think I called it the 2-minute tea break, or the 2-minute quick take. The quick take tea break. That's what I called it, the quick take tea break, and it was like a 2 to 5 minute video. And I love doing video essays, but for me personally, that was a lot, because even for the quick take tea breaks, those were tough to put together, because I still had to write them up, and after writing them, I filmed them, and then I edited them, and then I found the corresponding media that I wanted to put in there. In fact, I would say that the Doug reaction video was the closest thing to the type of stuff that I was doing over at my T. Morris channel on YouTube. That stuff is still up there, but I also need to update it because I haven't put up any of my archive stuff from here. And it's mainly because I've been trying to work on getting caught up with the Grim Gazette. All right. So anyway, so when we were putting together what we were going to do with Old Spirits, I'm like, well, if there's going to be a gap between investigations, we should have something simple, something quick. And that's when we came up with the 5-minute paranormal. And we put in that category for the 5-minute paranormal things like, okay, how do you find an EVP? How do you grade an EVP? Let's do a review on the Flux 2. Let's do a review on a REM pod. And we could talk about in detail these things, do reviews, and then still feed the algorithm. And you build a schedule around that. So first season was episode 5-minute paranormal, 5-minute paranormal. Episode 5-minute paranormal, 5-minute paranormal. And that was the original plan. We were going to do 2 5-minute paranormals between every one episode. And then we noticed our investigations were getting longer and longer. So then I said, okay, well, let's try doing 2 parts. And what we'll do is and we experimented. We experimented with how we were going to do and present all these different things, I think we did 5-minute paranormal, 5-minute paranormal, investigation part 1, 5-minute paranormal, investigation part 2, and then 2 5-minute paranormals. And that way it bought us enough time to go on ahead and do a new investigation, or at least edit it down. This season has been a little tighter, but the difference between season 3 versus the 2 previous seasons is we actually built a buffer. Right now, we have content going all the way to the end of July. And after this weekend, if everything works out, we will be able to continue that 4 to 6 week buffer. Now, that may not seem like a lot of time, but it is phenomenal. In fact, it is paramount, because when you have a buffer, that means you've got stuff that is scheduled, ready to go. You don't have to worry about it. And if life happens, you've got something to fall back on. Whether and you see now, Luna, you say a vacation. No. No. Because you see, with a vacation, that would mean that I would be completely hands off and I wouldn't be making any content. But I'm still making content even with that 2-month buffer, that month and a half, 2-month buffer. And then let's say something happens where I get super busy or Phil gets super busy. And we work around that. That buffer is there in case of emergencies. And you do not want to squander that. Like right now, it's June 18th, and I'm looking at our content, and we have content scheduled all the way up to July 12th. To me, that's not enough time. I need to put some more stuff in there to make sure that I'm going all the way to the end of the month, if possible, even into August. So when we were putting together our schedule, particularly for season 3, this is the formula that's been worked best for us, right? We've got part 1, part 2, 5-minute paranormal, 5-minute paranormal. Part 1, part 2, 5-minute paranormal, 5-minute paranormal. And if we start the season with a buffer, and we maintain it, it's actually a lot easier to keep the content going. It's also easy in case something else happens, like, life happens, and then we go, oh, we should actually take this 5-minute paranormal and move it up. And then we can start, mixing and matching where to put stuff. We might be able to bump an investigation forward if it's already ready to go. Or we can bump it back. In the case of, for example, like originally I wanted to have the Belmont Farm distillery to be the next investigation after Wayside. And I thought, no, actually, I think I wanted to go that Belmont leads into the finale, which is going to be the old hospital on College Hill. But this strategy is working for us on a couple of ways. First off, one, we've got content already in the hopper, scheduled, ready to go. The other thing is the investigations themselves are done. And that brings me to the next thing. When you put together a season, you want to have a beginning and you want to have an end, and then you want to have a seasonal break. And I'm going to talk about the seasonal break in just a second. Again, these are all different ways of avoiding burnout when you're creating content on a regular basis. In particular, for me, paranormal content. Luna just said in chat, even Ghostie's got to get vacations. So I see and I raise. Okay? I see and I raise. The ghosts for us get a vacation during the summer. I try to impress upon, now we're going to have some summer investigations, but I impress upon Phil, let's not investigate during the summer. Why is that? Well, one, everybody travels. So it is harder to get properties on your own, isolated, little to no noise. And especially if you are going outside. If you're going outside and you're doing outdoor investigations, forget about it, because you got the heat, you got the humidity, and you got insects and critters. Everybody, we're talking wild animals. The stuff that you saw, for example, in the Skinwalker clip from part 1. You've got so much. It's the one thing that I regret the most about our TWA episode. TWA investigation, the TWA episodes, those are my favorites. Those are some of my favorites. But the downside is that the cicadas, the crickets, the frogs, they are so effing loud that you really have to lean in for some of those EVPs at night. During the day, it's a little better, but at night, it's almost unlistenable. So that, and I'd love to be able to go back during the winter. The downside is that, well, now they've got luxury homes on the site, so much for that. Guy can dream, I guess. Or we can get a phone call saying, you guys do paranormal investigations. We'd like for you to come to our house because a pilot keeps knocking at the door every, and is asking, when he can make final approach. We don't know what he's talking about. Okay, we got you. Anyway, so really for us, production and presentation, or premieres in our case, we go on ahead and we do that during the summer. And the way that I would like because each season has premiered later and later. Like we did the first year we premiered in February, second one we premiered in March, this year we premiered in April. April was a little late for me, so I'd like to go back to a March, but I would say March to September is the optimum time for us to run episodes. Then we get to October. And in October, we're always gonna offer a Halloween special. You cannot be in the paranormal and not offer a Halloween special. You got to. And in this case, the October Halloween special is going to be Annenberg. We're excited about that. We're going to be streaming that episode. We're going to be streaming that investigation. Never before investigated property. Yeah, I'm over the moon about that. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then we decided, wouldn't it be fun if we did a December/holiday/Christmas special? And we do. And every year we do it, and it's a blast. It's a blast to do the holiday special. Phil and I wear our ugly sweaters and our stocking caps when we do the thing, and it's always fun. We're gonna keep doing that until we can't find a place to go to for Christmas. That's the way I look at it. But that brings me to the next thing. If you're doing presentations and hey, how you doing there, Val? If you're doing premieres and doing all that stuff during the summer, when do you ghost hunt? And that is where I would give the argument, do your ghost hunting between November and February. And it's funny, I actually got a little bit of not necessarily a pat on the back, but validation, if you will, from Jason Hawes about this. And it's funny, I should about mention Jason Hawes and Cassie pops up. How you doing there, Val? Basically what I mean is that Jason and his pal JV were just recently doing an investigation in Gettysburg. They were doing it during the summer. So that means that it was a little busier. They couldn't get the place all to themselves. It was really a little tougher. But then the hosts, the people that run the inn that they were investigating, said, why don't you come back in the off season? And the off season is November through roughly February, March, because it's cold, it's windy, it's miserable, quote unquote miserable. But the thing is, it's very quiet in Gettysburg, very quiet. And if you go back and you watch from season 2, our couples weekend in Gettysburg, you'll notice that we pretty much had the town to ourselves. And we got some incredible stuff. That was where we got the disembodied voice live on stream. That was where we got walking through. We were the only people walking through the triangular field. And I'm talking, and I just got this beautiful, it was a long day. I got that clear as a bell as an EVP. So yeah. Oh, you just stopped your writing stream. Thought you'd stop in. Cool. I heard you were doing some live writing streams. That's awesome. Good luck with that. I think it's cool. I think that's very cool. So if you're just constantly, and that's the other thing, if you are constantly doing investigations when you're not doing premieres, when you're not revealing new content, you pretty much just amass investigations after investigations after investigations, and then you start editing them in February. That way you're not pressured, especially if you're trying to do weekly investigations. Now, if you're doing enough investigations that you can do weekly, mazel tov, good on you. But have a season, which has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And for us, our solid season will be this year. You know, we haven't missed a week yet, and I'm gonna fight tooth and nail to make sure we don't. But we have an investigation pretty much every month up to October, so April through October. Now I'm gonna shift that, and I'm gonna try to make it April through September. So the question is, okay, well then, if the algorithm hates gaps, if the algorithm hates it when you take a break, because yes, the algorithm, the YouTube algorithm will punish you if you take a break, which is why you also hear about so many of these people saying, yeah, we've been producing content on a regular basis for 5 years and we haven't taken a break. Okay. So that was when something like a little 5-minute paranormal comes into play. You start doing reviews. You can do reviews of different stuff. When you look at our YouTube channel, and you see the most viewed or popular videos, this is how it goes. We've got the Doug video, which is not a 5-minute paranormal, but it also falls under the Grim Gazette, that's still a new thing that I'm working around. But staying with the 5-minute paranormal and the investigation itself, Ghost Tube, 23,000 views, right? That's a 5-minute paranormal. Project Fear is worth watching, 5-minute paranormal. 28 Days Haunted, 5-minute paranormal. Project Fear debunks Satori and Cody. That's another, that's an unexpected, what is it? Grim Gazette. How to set up your that was the funniest one. That one I did not expect. How to set up your Spirit Box PSB 11. That is one of our top 5 videos. 5-minute paranormal. Spirit Box review, 5-minute paranormal. REM Pod review, 5-minute paranormal. Flux 2 review, 5-minute paranormal. Ghost Tube Seer, 5-minute paranormal. Return to Haunted Crash Site, 5-minute paranormal. It's not until we get to video 10, Terror at Haunted Crash Site, TWA. Boom. Right? And, but that's my point, is that by doing the shorter stuff, I'm still feeding the algorithm. And it brings value, because the shorter stuff isn't just throwaway content. It's reviews, it's product reviews, it's how to set up certain things. It's a review of 28 Days Haunted. It is a review of Project Fear. It's a review of, and then, so I'm going to get to how the Grim Gazette fits into all of this. But in the off time between episodes, between investigations, we can have 5-minute paranormals and still feed the algorithm. But then we reach the end of the season. Well, then what? Okay, that's when you start leaning into shorts, and you just feed the algorithm, and you feed it with shorts. How do you do that? Economically as well as efficiently. You go back to your previous stuff, the 5-minute paranormals, the investigations, and you mine them for quick little 1 to 2 minute clips. Well, I'm sorry, I'm thinking like TikTok, YouTube. 1-minute clips from each of these investigations, each of these 5-minute paranormals. And the nice thing about YouTube Shorts is you can directly link it back to another YouTube video. So pretty much you're making commercials that you can schedule. And then of course there's, fun stuff that we've done with CapCut and and just special little blips here and there that you could easily turn into a YouTube short. And as Luna said, feed the mighty algorithm. And you can do 1 to 2 shorts a day, easily schedule them during the weekend, and boom, you can walk away from it. So that's another way you can feed the algorithm, not just with stuff like 5-minute shorts, but then you go into actual YouTube shorts and do 1-minute clips. And then you've got stuff like what I'm doing here, the Grim Gazette. This was a totally unexpected thing that was actually recommended to me by a stream doctor. And I actually need to go back to Streamer Square once things solidify and settle down for me, re-up my membership and ask them, okay, what's my next step? What do I need to do next? But she recommended to me, a lovely woman by the name of Loco over at Streamer Square. She said, you should do a debunk channel or reaction channel. And I was totally against it, and so was my stream. My stream was totally against this. But then I came up with the concept of the Grim Gazette. We'll have it do wacky news stories or weird news stories or feel-good news stories. And this is one of the more popular things that I do on this channel now. People enjoy it, and I'm like, okay, great. Because I feel like now I'm leaning into my educator side, and I can be like, okay, let's talk about what happened on Amy's Crypt. Let's talk about what happened on Beardo. Let's talk about ways of avoiding burnout. And now I'm doing this on a regular basis. I record it live on Twitch, so I'm feeding the Twitch algorithm. And as far as YouTube, I take the Twitch episode, download it, edit it out, boom. Now, will the Grim Gazette take a break? It has already. It has in the past. But it's easily managed. It's easily managed, this type of content. And also I learned and again, big props to Steve Saylor, my man, Steve Saylor. When I started putting up the edited versions for YouTube, Steve was like, T, you can't put up 2.5 to 3 hours. That's a long watch. And I'm like, he is absolutely right. And thus I now had 2 new additions that if I wanted to stretch out, I could. But I now have 2 extra hours of content that I can put out there. And all of this stuff is just feeding the algorithm. Then if somebody comes even forward and says, okay, well now the shorts aren't going to cut it. You need to start providing some content that will be able to go all year round. Well, and editing down streams can take a lot of work, unless you have very specific start and stop points, right? Let me go back a bit. I applied for a job last night, and one of the requirements was TikTok, which I never used before. Is it something we should all be using now? I'm a multimedia designer. So the way to look at TikTok is that TikTok is a necessary evil. At one time, it was the place to be. But the weird thing is now TikTok is trying to be like YouTube, and YouTube is trying to be more like TikTok. And I'll get into that splitting of hairs in just a moment. But the way to approach TikTok is I make content for YouTube, and then I will repurpose it for TikTok. It's easier for me to do that way. But when it comes to the continuing to make the most of your feed, like for example, let's say the shorts are just no longer cutting it. We get a bit of a dip in our subscriptions. We get a dip in our visibility, what have you, right? In that break between Christmas and the new year, or sorry, not the new year, the new season, which will be March. So what do I do between January and February? One option is starting up 5-minute paranormals again. Do them weekly. I can make 3 5-minute paranormals within a day if I really push myself. I would prefer to have Phil make a 5-minute paranormal and me make a 5-minute paranormal, so we have double the content. And we just put that out on a weekly basis. That would be one way. That'd be one thing we could do. But then you reach, and this is what I would tell people: do your best to reach season 5. Because when you reach season 5, that's when you get to step back and go, holy Hannah in a handbasket. I have over 100 videos that I can choose from. In fact, I think I did the math, and I'm averaging roughly, if you look at all the different episodes that we create on a regular basis, between season 1 and season 3. And let me just go on ahead and ask real quick. Ziggy, what is 36 times 3?
36 times 3 is 108.
Okay. So I have over 108 different episodes. Now, they're all different sizes. but I have 108 different pieces of content to choose from. So what do I do with that? I can make what I would call the lead investigator cut. And you're heading out for the night. Thank you, Val. Thank you, Cassie, for coming in. You have a good night. Take care of yourself. Good to have you in stream. But but you now have 108 different pieces of content to choose from. So what do? That's when you start doing compilations. And the people that I learned that from were not only Paranormal Quest, but I learned that from Viva La Dirt League. Because Viva La Dirt League, the way they fed their algorithm was they were just dropping in these little 3-minute comedy sketches, right? They would do like maybe 2 a week. These little 3-minute comedy sketches. And they did that steadily. And what you could tell they would do is they would rent out this and because they're shooting in New Zealand, Pip knew where they were. They were shooting in this little historical village, and they would just rent out the village for a day or two, and they would be like, okay, let's do our sketches. And they just do random sketches. They would just do a whole crap ton of sketches. And then after so many seasons, they were like doing supercuts. And they would have these 20, 30-minute compilations. And then after another few seasons, they would have, mega compilations. And then they launched, of course, Viva La Dirt League D&D, and that was another source of content for them. But it's those compilations, like I know that if we investigated a few more motels or a few more bed and breakfasts, we could easily do a compilation for haunted B&Bs or haunted bed and breakfasts or haunted inns or something like that. We could do, if we did like another theater or two, we could do haunted theaters, the Bird, the theater, the Masonic Theater in Clifton Forge, and wherever else we go. All these different places, they all start to add up. And compilations are very easy to put together. And I found that out when I did a 5-minute paranormal as a compilation. And that compilation was basically I called it the Christmas list compilation. And it was just, reviews of different stuff that you could buy for people that are into the paranormal, investigating and otherwise. So there's a lot of stuff that you can do. The trick is getting there. The trick is getting there, particularly to that 5th season. I mean, it's hard for me to even look at the possibilities of what we can do after season 5. But that's part of what's driving me right now. And what I'm trying to get across is that you really should approach your content with a hardcore strategy and stick with that schedule. Before launching a new channel, before launching any new content project, you should have at least 2 to 2.5 months of content already edited, polished, ready to go. Audio, to me, that's very easy because it's audio. So it can be as evergreen as you like. And you don't have to worry about, it's just easier to edit audio. You start getting into video, that's a little different. And video is a lot harder to work with. Now, does that mean I have any regrets? Absolutely not. I have no regrets. I mean, I am thrilled. I am pleased. I am over the moon of how much I've been able to maintain with Phil and Tina and Pip helping me out, been able to maintain this schedule. And I just want to keep it. I want to keep it there. It is very resource intensive, especially Luna. I don't know if you've ever worked with After Effects, but After Effects is what I use to create the Grim Gazette opening and closing. That's intense. After Effects is just it just wrings your computer dry. But but is it worth it? Oh, After Effects is your bread and butter? Oh, that's what I want to hear. That's what I want to hear. Absolutely. After Effects is where it's at. And but when it comes to the content itself, have a strategy. Have a definitely mapped out strategy. but also leave it open. Leave it open for other ideas. Like one of the ways that I would like to be able to, to manage our content is I want to time it with Phil and his podcast, Don't Turn Around, which he's been posting on Old Spirits. And what I'd like to see him do is to have him run Don't Turn Around in the off season. So we are out investigating, collecting video. He has scheduled his podcast to run November through March. And then March, we launch Old Spirits. That way we can have year-round content. And I think having that sort of open mind about the strategy that you put together for your paranormal content will help you avoid burnout. Because if Phil is collecting his interviews during, say, during the summer, but he doesn't release them until the winter, that way we actually can get a vacation. We can get some downtime so that we can go out and do paranormal investigations. That's the thing. Our vacations are paranormal investigations, and that works fine for us. That works just fine for us. So that, in a nutshell, is what I wanted to talk about. Was just sort of a way of looking at what you want to accomplish with your paranormal content and how to avoid burnout, because burnout is a thing. And unless you are going full time, and unless you have a crew that is able to, on a full-time basis, record, edit, and put out an investigation, it's going to be hard. And I think that Amy of Amy's Crypt and Ryan and Dave of Amy and Jared of Amy's Crypt, Ryan and Dave of Paranormal Quest, you've heard me talk about them before. Even Jason Hawes with Jason and JV. Jason is learning his way around this, and Beardo gets scared. I mean, they're all navigating this, and I think if you approach the content that you're creating here efficiently, and actually, I should actually cite a dear friend of mine who I haven't met. Dear friend who I haven't met, but one day I hope to. Truey, Trui. I'll have her link in here, but Truey, I need to get either a T-shirt or I need to put it up here somewhere on my wall. She has a lovely saying: "Stream smarter, not harder." And I feel that's the same way you should approach content on YouTube or elsewhere. You don't need to create content harder. You need to create content smarter. Make it efficient and make it flexible. Instead of you being controlled by your stream or by your content, you should be the one in control of the content. So I'm just gonna wrap up with that.
I suggest you let that one marinate.
And I want to say real quick, thank you everybody for being here. Thank you for enjoying the 20th issue of the Grim Gazette. It has been a delight bringing you this absolutely weird content, and I hope that you've enjoyed tonight. It's always fun coming on here and getting weird with you on Tuesday nights. So until next week, you all know what to do. Stay weird.